you struggle with everyday small things, like how to hang toilet paper this or next Thursday, the proper use of y'all? Then join Gary and JR to consider these and other trivial matters. The Small Things Considered podcast, Ranch and Records, appearing every other Tuesday, alternating with Three Things JR.
Hello and welcome back to Three Things with JR. This is episode number 127. And if you listened to my last episode, you know that I was about to go on a trip to Iowa. And I did, and I came back yesterday, barely giving myself enough time to record this week's episode of this show before it comes out tomorrow, Tuesday. Hopefully you're listening to this on Tuesday, and there you go. A lot of driving, thousands of miles. I got my oil change right before I left, and I'm going to have to get it changed again pretty soon. So there. It's amazing how much better gas mileage my car gets in Iowa and in the Midwest in general. Basically from like the middle of Ohio and westward, my car got like 5 or 6 miles to the gallon better gas mileage than it does when I drive around Virginia as I do every day, just because it's so flat. And so it was, big difference in gas mileage going out there. While driving, I listened to a bunch of audiobooks and podcasts and such. I did finish Demon Copperhead. I talked about that book on the last episode. I was only halfway through it at that point, and I finished it. And wow, that book gets dark in the second half of the book. Whew. You're following along with the life of this young boy named Demon Copperhead, living in Southwest Virginia. He's a foster boy, and the middle-ish of the book, it's a good ride. He's actually got some good things happening to him in his life. But basically that second half of the book, the majority of it, not so happy. And if you're wondering, I'm not going to spoil anything for you. Don't worry. I would say the end of the book is satisfying. Not necessarily a happy ending. It's hard for this story to have a happy ending. I'll say it's as happy as it can be, this story. And I don't want to give any more detail because the book is so good, and you really won't see the ending coming. It's surprisingly action-packed. So fantastic read, Demon Copperhead. I highly recommend it. I suggest you listen to it if you do the audiobook thing, because the guy that reads it, to me, just has the perfect voice and mannerisms to pull off this book. When I finished that book, I started listening to David Sedaris' new book, Happy Go Lucky. If you aren't familiar with David Sedaris, you might know his sister. She is an actress. Her name is Amy Sedaris. David is her brother, and he is a writer, an author, and he's a comic. He's a funny guy. He does readings of his work, and a lot of the audiobook is him reading it in public at book signings and such. And it's just wonderful. He's hilarious. I absolutely love his sense of humor. So I do recommend Happy Go Lucky by David Sedaris. We got some business to talk about here. This episode drops on Tuesday, July 25th. If you're listening to this on the day it drops, or even the day after, Wednesday the 26th, you still have time to get yourself to Main Street in Waynesboro at 6 p.m. on Wednesday. That is when my band, To Be Fair, takes the stage at Wayne on Main, which is right in front of the Wayne Theater in Waynesboro on Main Street. It's a free show. It's outside. Bring the kids, bring some chairs, bring your dancing shoes, and hang out with To Be Fair. We'll be playing music from 6 to 8. So I hope you're able to get out there and enjoy that with us. So yeah, hopefully we'll see you there. I am working on a new YouTube channel. I've been, of all the streaming services that are out there, I think I use YouTube more than any other streaming service. I watch a lot of YouTube to learn things, to be entertained, to find comedy, as well as disc golf, sports, that kind of stuff. I'm watching it all the time. I'm watching some YouTubers, and an idea hit me for a pretty cool concept for a YouTube channel, and I have begun work on it. I have filmed. I've got enough. I've got enough footage for about 3 episodes of this show that I want to do, and here's the idea. The idea is I want to go out into the world to public places. An example might be, say, the downtown mall here in Charlottesville, Virginia, and find interesting people to talk to and sort of ambush them. Now, I won't be recording anybody without their permission and consent, but what I'm seeking to do is find people that are indeed willing to talk to me on camera, kind of spur of the moment, no preparation. I just kind of want to interview the everyday person. I want to find people who are willing to tell me things that are important to them. Tell me about who they are and how they got to where they are at this point in life, that kind of thing. Do they have any philosophies or words of wisdom or good advice to share with people? I want to know, what is it about people that makes them interesting, and film it and put that on YouTube. And I think it's kind of like, famous people get all the interview time they can possibly handle. But what about the rest of us? I think the rest of us need a way of getting the word out there that we're all interesting in our own way. So what makes you special? That's what I want to know. And I've got some footage. I've talked to some people. I have found out what is it about them that makes them special. And I am busy editing these episodes and getting them ready for YouTube. There will be a website. There will be a whole thing, working on an actual channel that hopefully people enjoy. So there's a teaser for it. I will have more details on it when it becomes a reality. We're getting close, but it's not quite there yet. So stay tuned for more information on the new YouTube channel. Oh man, what did I do in Iowa? I know you were wondering that. I played a lot of disc golf. I played it in Des Moines. I played at Okoboji and Algona, and in Emmitsburg. In small towns in Iowa, there's plenty of disc golf. Played a lot of that. And my dad, who I did not realize would be interested in doing this, was happy to join me and walk 18 holes of disc golf. He did it with me 4 or 5 times at a bunch of different courses. And I'll tell you what, even when I'm playing alone, it's nice to have a spotter, someone who can go ahead and watch and see where the disc lands, so I don't have to spend forever looking for it in case, maybe I throw the disc off the fairway, which, I do from time to time. So Dad was an awesome spotter, and loved having him help me out there. Another thing we did while in Iowa was go to Lake Okoboji and go to Arnold's Park, which is it's like an amusement park holdover from long ago. Dad said he went there when he was a kid, and like when he was 10 years old, and wanted to go back. So we went back, and it has changed, but also stayed the same in many ways. It's not an amusement park like a Busch Gardens or a Disney World or a King's Dominion or a Six Flags. It's not quite like that. It's more of it's a low budget amusement park. It's the kind where you can walk in for free and just pay per ride, or you can pay for a daily pass to be able to ride all of the rides. But I tell you, some of those rides, like the tilt-a-whirl style rides and, things that spin around or go upside down, things like that, those rides looked like carnival rides that were left there by the last carnival in town. They're the kind of rides where they were probably they fold up into the back of like an 18-wheeler trailer. And then, when the carnival gets to town, they unfold it and bring it out. It's like a pop-up ride. And because it still has like the hydraulic jacks on the side to stabilize it, some of these rides did not look permanently installed. And some of them, there was a roller coaster called the Mad Mouse, which is an interesting roller coaster. There's no humongous hills on it; they're all pretty small. But this thing is it's like you have one car as opposed to a train of cars, and as you go around, these curves are like super sharp, and so it's kind of jolting. And as I'm standing there in line watching this ride, I'm realizing that when these cars go around these curves, they're pulling so much G's that what looks like scaffolding, which are the supports for this thing, these metal poles that go down to these metal bases are not even bolted into the ground, and the entire thing kind of moves and shifts as people are riding it. And it made me very hesitant to ride it, but I'm not sure what it says about me that I rode that ride anyway. I did ask if there was a weight limit, and he said there was not, that he knew of. And so he let me ride it, and I had just watched a bunch of people do it, and nobody's car fell off the tracks, and the tracks didn't fall apart, so I went ahead and did it, and I made it. I was okay. But I don't know. It didn't seem all that safe. Another highlight of the trip was the Okoboji Classic Car Museum, which is it's in Milford, Iowa, just south of Lake Okoboji. And, I've seen small classic car museums all over the place. There's one right here in Greene County. I've driven by it thousands of times. And it's not all that much to write home about. So when I found out that there was a classic car museum in the middle of Iowa, I can't say I was super optimistic that it was going to be a worthwhile experience. But then we got there, and it was mind-blowingly good. First off, a crap ton of cars, probably 100 cars in there. Also, probably 30 or 40 motorcycles and a bunch of other stuff. And it's in this humongous warehouse-sized building, and it's split into two halves, and you go down the first half, and the entire inside of the building is made to look like the downtown main street of Spencer, Iowa, a town just a few miles away from where this museum is. It's got all these fake buildings, facades that are all the storefronts on Main Street in Spencer. And they're built out from the wall. They're just a couple feet deep, but it's like a barbershop and a diner and a bank and a hairstylist and all these stores that would be on a main street in a town. And then in between the buildings are these murals. There's 28,000 square feet of murals painted on the wall to make the town look humongous, to give it a 3D effect in between the buildings. And to give it the night sky and the flag in the air. And Arnold's Park, the amusement park, has a whole mural and everything. It was incredible. The museum just looked fantastic. The cars were beautiful. And they give a guided tour, so you get stories about all of the cars and the guy that owns the place and all that stuff. So if you're ever in Okoboji, Iowa, highly recommend Okoboji Classic Cars. Another highlight of the trip, the Surf Ballroom. Dad lives in Emmitsburg, Iowa, about an hour and 20 minutes west of Clear Lake, Iowa. And if you are familiar with music and rock and roll and the history of rock and roll, you might be aware of the historical significance of the Surf Ballroom in Clear Lake, Iowa. Because that is where Buddy Holly, Ritchie Valens, and the Big Bopper performed their last gig before dying in a plane crash, leaving that gig. Their plane left at 12:30 in the morning on February 3rd, 1959. They got a plane because it was winter and horrible, and the weather was bad, and the tour buses were freezing up, and so Buddy Holly chartered an airplane, and those three got on it along with the young, inexperienced pilot who flew that plane for about 5 minutes before crashing it into a cornfield. And that was the day the music died. And the Surf Ballroom is where they played music that night, February 2nd. So their last gig, and this can be seen in the movie La Bamba, and of course, I think it's in the Buddy Holly story, although I haven't seen that movie. But the Surf Ballroom is still there, and it still looks like it did back then, thanks to some restoration and such. And it is currently a live music performance venue. You can go see bands play there most nights of the week. It's also a museum. You can just walk right in. They ask for a $5 donation, and then you can just walk all around it, on the stage, behind the stage, all around the ballroom and the seats. There's a whole museum section with a bunch of exhibits and posters and guitars and stuff like that. And the place really does look exactly like it did in all the pictures from back when it was in its heyday. And so the Surf Ballroom is a pretty cool little spot if you're into music and music history at all. I highly recommend it. There was a band setting up while we were there, the Eli Gardiner Band. And as we were getting ready to leave, I heard the drummer for this band doing a sound check. You know, he had just finished setting up his drums, and he just played around on them. And so before we walked out the front door, I said, Dad, hey, get your camera out and go stand in the audience. I'm going to go up on stage and ask the drummer if I can play his drums for 30 seconds. And so he did, and I did. And the drummer, he wasn't exactly happy to do it. It took a little prodding, a reassurance from me that I wasn't going to hit his drums super hard or break any of his cymbals, and that I really legitimately am a drummer, and all I wanted to do was play for 30 seconds with my dad videoing, so I can have proof that I have performed at the Surf Ballroom, this iconic, historic place. And he let me do it. I did it. We got a video of it, and it's done. In fact, I think I can even play you some audio from that video. Here we go. That's it. That's all it was. That's all I wanted to do. And he sat there just sort of watching and hanging out and didn't seem to mind. He was super chill dude. So big thanks to the Eli Gardiner Band and specifically his drummer for allowing me to play around on his drums in the Surf Ballroom. Pretty cool. That video, in case you're interested, is on YouTube. It's on the To Be Fair YouTube page. That's on YouTube. That's at To Be Fair, TOBEFARE. So check it out if you are so interested. While in Iowa, I had to put my technical skills to use, and I did represent Crutchfield quite well. I hooked up a total of 3 sound bars while I was there, and plus provided some tech support for some other family members with their technical stuff, computers and refrigerators and TVs and such. But it was nice to be able to put my work skills to work and make some people, like my family, my aunts and their family, happy with their consumer electronics. You know, these are not techie people. These are not people that care at all about their speakers and what type of speakers they have and what TV model they have and how many HDMI inputs does it have and how good does it sound. They do care. They do want it to sound good, which is why they've invested in a sound bar. But it just took some help, and I was able to help them get their stuff hooked up and working and sounding good. And so that was nice. You know, doing what I do every day at work, which is help salespeople sell consumer electronics, which I truly believe makes people's lives better because they're able to play music and watch TV and do whatever to help them get through the day. You know, And I did that in person, and so that was kind of nice. Last thing about the trip, and last thing really for this whole show, I didn't have three things here. I just wanted to sort of recap the last week and a half or so of my life for you. And the last thing, last but not least, as you know from this show, I play a lot of disc golf. And I want to tell you the origin of my love of disc golf comes from my Uncle Bob, who lives in Ohio with my Aunt Mary. And I stopped into their house for 2 days on the way back from Iowa. And they have a bunch of acres, like 20 acres of land, a beautiful house, kind of out in the country in near Columbus, Ohio. Technically, it's in Delaware, Ohio. And right behind their house, they have a beautiful yard and a pond, and like a man-made pond that Bob put in when he first bought the place many years ago. And you know, when I was a kid, we would go to Bob and Mary's house and play frisbee golf. And what that means at Bob and Mary's house is Bob has put around his yard little stacks of tires. So 2 tires, used tires from a car, right? With nothing in the middle of them. There's 2 tires stacked up horizontally on each other. So it stands about 1.5 feet tall. And then right next to the tires is a little wooden post with a milk jug on it with a number. So the holes are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And at Bob's, you're supposed to only play with frisbees, not discs. Disc golf discs aren't allowed at Bob's on the frisbee golf course. Frisbees are what are allowed. So you got to get a regular frisbee. He has a bunch. And it's the same basic rules as disc golf, except it's different frisbees, full-size frisbees thrown at and hopefully into tires as the hole. And none of these holes are very long. For disc golf, these basically are all putting holes. Like none of them are more than like 60 feet, maybe. So they're short holes, but they're not as easy to play when you got to play with those big funky frisbees rather than a disc. We've been playing frisbee golf at Bob and Mary's as long as I can remember going out there. And I remember it was not too long after returning from a family visit to Bob and Mary's in Ohio when I was somewhere in the age, let's say 10, 11, 12, somewhere around there, when I was riding my bike back home in Northern Virginia after visiting Bob and Mary's. And I was riding it on the bike trail up in the Northern Virginia area, right through Bluemont Park in Arlington. And what I saw, somehow I just instinctively knew what it was, but I had to do some research and figure it out. I saw a metal pole with like a metal wire rim basket and some chains drooping down from the top. And I looked at it and I immediately thought, I wonder if that's like for real frisbee golf, like not just tires, but is that for like, how you play it for real? And I figured it probably was. I found a sign that confirmed that it was. I think it called it disc golf, which I didn't realize at the time was the proper name for it. But I went and got a frisbee. I don't know if we owned one or if I had to go to a store and get one, but I came back and played my first ever round of frisbee golf that was not at Bob and Mary's on Bluemont Disc Golf Course in Arlington. It's one of the oldest disc golf courses around, and it was not much fun at all. I did it one time and thought this was kind of dumb, but that was because it's not a frisbee golf course, it's a disc golf course, and so that's the wrong kind of thing to be throwing, is one of those big regular honkin' frisbees. So it was years later, like 20 years later, that I was in the Greene County Community Park when I once again saw a pole with a basket and some chains. And I thought, oh my gosh, we have a disc golf course here near my house. And this time I went to Play It Again Sports and got some actual discs, and went back and started meeting up with other disc golfers, and I have been hooked on disc golf ever since. That was around 20 years ago. So the origin of my love of disc golf starts with Bob and Mary Ford in Delaware, Ohio, in their backyard playing frisbee golf with ultimate frisbees and a bunch of tires. So there you go. That's episode 127. A whole bunch of just recapping the last 2 weeks. And so next week will be an episode of Small Things Considered. We do not have it pre-recorded, so I don't know what we're going to consider, but a little birdie told me that we might want to consider talking about this whole Jason Aldean Small Town song. I spoke with Gary today at band practice. Neither one of us have actually heard the song. We are just aware of all of the hoopla going on around it. So we might be considering that small thing. Jason Aldean's Small Thing is deserving of some consideration, apparently. So stay tuned next week for that. Small Things Considered comes out on alternating Tuesdays from this show. So this show's every other Tuesday, and Small Things Considered is the other every other Tuesday. So I'll see you next week on Small Things Considered. This is JR for 3 Things with JR. Over and out. See you next time. Whiskey and rye.